Hello, I'm Microsoft MVP Tom Morgan. I'd like to help you build your first Copilot plugin. We're going to keep things really simple. You don't need to be a developer to do this, even though we're going to be using developer tools and actually writing code. I'm going to keep it so simple. And in this video, you can just follow along exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to be sitting at my keyboard. You're going to be able to see my screen the whole time. Even if we get it wrong and make mistakes, we'll fix them as we go. Not only are we going to make the simplest Copilot plugin you've ever seen, we're also going to make a really impactful one that actually does something and makes a difference. Sound interesting? Let's get started. We're going to be starting with a sample code. And what the sample code does is actually a bit more than what we need. So we're going to take some pieces out of it. What we're going to do essentially is this. Think about how you use communications today, things like email, Microsoft Teams messages. Now, you might have already thought about being a better person as you communicate through those messages. You may even have gone as far as to write down or at least think about a communication manifesto, nothing more than a set of rules to define good behavior when you send and receive your messages. So things like when sending emails, kind of be kind, be courteous. If you do have to criticize, do it constructively. Don't shout, things like that. Another one that I'm going to add into my list actually is keep emails short. I feel like if emails go much above 200 words, they should probably be a meeting. Anyway, you've probably got your own list of things, your own manifesto for how to do good email or Teams messages. So we're going to take that idea. We're going to use our Copilot plugin as a way of telling Copilot what our communication manifesto is. And that's really powerful because Copilot also has access to all the emails we've sent. So we can combine those two things together and then get Copilot to tell us when we're not sending emails that are aligned with our manifesto. It's going to be really impactful and powerful. It's going to make you a better person and it's going to be really simple to do. All right, you ready? Let's get started. Okay. So we're here in Visual Studio Code. If you don't have Visual Studio Code, go look for it. You can download it. It's free. We're also going to be using the Teams Toolkit. Again, look for it, add it as an extension in Visual Studio Code. It will show up here on the left as an icon. So I can go to Teams Toolkit. Now I said we were going to start with a sample and we are. So we're going to go to create a new app. Of all these options, we're going to choose a messaging extension. You might not know this, but you've always been able to build messaging extensions for Microsoft Teams. They show up in Teams and in Outlook, and you can use them to assist you when creating new messages. What's really interesting is that you can also reuse messaging extensions in Copilot as plugins, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to build a very simple messaging extension, but we're not going to use it as a messaging extension particularly. We've really built it to use with Copilot. So I'm going to choose messaging extension. The one I'm going to choose is this custom search results, and I'm going to show you it working, but actually we don't need quite a lot of that functionality, so we're going to take it out again. I'm going to choose custom search. I'm going to use start with a bot because that works in Teams and Outlook and is also what we need to do to make it work with Copilot. I'm going to choose JavaScript as my language. I'm going to take the default folder and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it demo for video. That's not very good, is it? Demo Copilot extension for video. Extension. See, I told you I was going to leave everything in. Right. I can't type either, especially not with a big microphone in front of me. So, demo Copilot extension for video. Okay, so it's going to create a load of things and open it in a new window. I'll say yes to trusting the authors of this sample project. And you can see there's a bunch of stuff happening here. And we've got this nice README file, and that's going to tell us what it is we've just built. And so we can go down and look at the screenshots and see how to use it. We can see it's kind of search. What it's actually doing is search. It does tell us somewhere. It searches through the, I don't know if it does tell you anywhere. Anyway, I'll tell you what it does. It searches through the Node.js repository. So you can type in something into the search box and it will give you all these results back, and then you can put them in as an adaptive card. And what they're showing in this screenshot is that it works in Teams and also in Outlook, which is cool. Again, not really what we need it for, but I just want to show you this working first. So just haven't made any changes to the code. We're going to go and look at the code in a minute. Most of it sits up here under this SRC, which stands for source code. So I can break this open and there's something in here. There's an adaptive card and then there's 3 other files and we're going to look at those in a minute. But for now, I'm going to press F5. F5 is the same as coming up here and clicking this select and start debugging Teams app. It's kind of like the go button, okay? What it's going to do, and it's going to take quite a long time, so I'm probably going to pause this video whilst it does it. It's actually doing quite a lot of things. It's building the application. It's creating a new Teams application all around the application. Because when you create new applications for Teams, you have to package them inside a manifest. So it's doing all of that. It's actually also then going to set up this tunnel thing, and then it's going to send it off. This one's not, because this one didn't work, but I'm going to come back to that in a minute. It's going to send it off to my browser, open it in Teams, and add it to my Teams application as an app. Okay, so this one didn't work for some reason, I don't know. So the short name must not have more than 30 characters. Okay, so when stuff like this breaks, don't panic, okay? Usually, more or less all of the time, the error is pretty easy to find, and it's what you do with it. So in this case, you can see, if I just kind of scroll down all the things it was doing, I'm looking for some red because red is bad, right? So the error name dash short must not have more than 30 characters. And that's probably because I gave it this really big name of demo Copilot extension for video, which was a mistake on my part, but that's okay. We can change that. So I've got a couple of options. I could close this whole project and start a new one with a much shorter name, and that would get around the problem. But I feel like I could fix this. I know where this is, okay? This is a good chance to go and have a look at the Teams manifest. The manifest is a big JSON file that describes the Teams application and what it does. And I can find it up here under app package and manifest. And I've got a couple of options because you can see here the short name short, and it's got my full project name in, and then it says also, it's got a warning actually that says it's really long. Okay, so let's call it something else. We were going to do it for our sort of manifestos, weren't we? So why don't I just call it demo comms manifesto. All of that I think is probably, no, the whole string is more than 30 characters. It's moaning because this bit here on the end gets replaced with either dev or local, depending on what kind of build we're doing. That's what it looks like that. I could take it out. I think I'm probably all right leaving that like that now. So I'm going to press F5 again, see what it does. And if that still doesn't fix it, we'll make some more changes. I think it's kind of important always to leave this stuff in because like these are exactly the problems you're going to hit. So it's good to keep all the stuff in the video and you can skip over it if it's not very interesting. But at least if you hit this problem, at least now you know why. Okay, this process can take a little bit of time. So unless it breaks, I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to resume the video when something interesting starts. Okay, so something interesting has just happened, which is that this browser window has popped up. And this has been opened automatically by the build process for that app, which has packaged my app. And you can see it's got that new name I gave it, plus it's added local because it's running locally. That was that weird string on the end that picked the type of version. So I can click add, and it literally adds it to my Teams instance. So if I come over to Teams now and create a new post. Okay, create a new post, and down here, which is where the extensions live, I can look down here and I can see my new Copilot manifest extension. This is my new extension here, the one that's still running on my machine, by the way, which is kind of a really interesting thing. This is all new technology in the last couple of years, actually. So this makes things much easier than they used to be. It means that you can run the code locally and then test it out in your local Teams instance before you're ready to deploy it, which is really handy. So I can choose this. When I do, I get this search query box, okay? And if you remember me saying this was used to search, I think, the node repository or the NPM repository. If I do that, it moans at me that it can't reach the app, which is not very nice. So let's have a look and see if we can work out why that is. It might just be that it's all happened a bit too quickly. So let's just try again. Because this is kind of wiring up Teams and my local machine and lots of other things like that. So let's have a look. Nope. So the first thing I'm going to do when things like this happen, I know it's not me, okay? And that's a kind of an important thing to try and figure out. Is it you or is it not you? And in this case, I don't think it's probably me. Okay, so I figured out the problem. The problem this time was with me and not with the application. I don't know if you noticed, you might be shouting in this video, I chose the wrong application. I've got a whole bunch of these sitting in my list from previous tests and demos and stuff like that. So I was choosing this one up here, which is was tied to my local machine running, but it's no longer running. The one that is actually running is the one that we made here, this Dems Comms Manifesto local one. So with the right messaging extension selected, which hopefully is a problem you won't have, I can now do some searching. And if I do search, you can see it's now searching the repository, and I can choose one of these packages and it will nicely put in an adaptive card with a sort of nice heading and a bit of a description. Okay, so that's how it works out of the box. And that's great. Not really what we want though. So let's go and have a look at some of this code and figure out what we can change. So first thing that we're going to look at, let's come to the adaptive card. So the adaptive card, you can see this layout of what we were just looking at, the sort of the title at the top with the name and then a description of what it was just underneath. And we can keep that, that's fine. If you remember, the thing that we're building is going to be a Copilot plugin. So actually people aren't really going to see it. It's more that Copilot is going to see it. The only thing we're building in here is the ability to return information about our communication manifesto. This is essentially like a little data store that we're using for Copilot here. Okay. Now you can make this as fancy or as not fancy as you want. If you're doing this in the real world, you'd probably hook it up to some sort of data store. So you had a nice like fancy UI you could use to kind of show and edit your manifestos. We're not going to do any of that because this is just a demo to show you how easy it can be to build something. Okay, so let's come over to the search app part of the code. This is where it actually takes in what the user said, the search bit at the top, and then does the searching of the npm registry and gives us back the results. So we're going to change this slightly. Now, one of the restrictions with messaging extensions is that we can't just use it to show data, which is really what we want to do. We really just want to give Copilot our communication manifesto, right? So that it can use it in determining whether or not we're sending good emails. We can't really do that without a search entry. That's fine though. We can overuse that. Like we can make sure that Copilot tells our code what type of manifesto it is. So what we're going to do in our scenario is say that we're going to have different types of manifesto for different types of media. So like email, Teams, something else, right? For the demo, we're always going to return the same communication manifesto, the same things that we want to do right, because it just makes the code easier. But you could totally build this out after you've watched this video if you want to make things a bit cooler. All right, so let's make some changes to this code. So this is the bit that goes and searches the registry. So we definitely don't need that anymore. So let's get rid of that. We also, right now, I'm going to comment this out because this would be where we would take in what type of the search query. So what type of manifesto we want. Is it Teams? Is it email? For now, we're not going to use this. If you're going to come back, you might want to use this. So I'm just going to leave that there for you. What this code does is it iterates through the results. It goes through every resulted item and it puts out a template, a card, sorry. It builds up a card based on the template. We don't want to do that. We only really want to issue one card. So I'm going to get rid of this for loop that's here. Let's take that all out. We don't need that. And so we can have a new card. We still want to return the card, and that's fine. And we can still put in the name in the description, but we're not taking it from the results now. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to overtype this because it keeps things simple. So we're going to have a nice big title that says your communication manifesto. Okay. Ooh, there we go. In double quotes, your communication manifesto. And then underneath, we're going to put in what our manifesto is. Now, you can put in exactly what you want for this. You don't have to copy mine. You can make it entirely what you want to do. So my manifesto is this. Number 1, be kind. Way to go, Copilot, for GitHub. These are some really good options. I'm going to paste in what mine are, and then we'll just go through them quickly. So we've got be kind, be honest, be open, be inclusive, be respectful. If you criticize, do it constructively. Keep emails short, under 200 words. Use emojis to convey tone. Okay, so we're going to do that. And the rest of this stuff I feel like mostly stay. This bit we need to change because that was taking it from the the name of the package. So this again will be your communication manifesto. It's the title. And then we can push that. And then that's just going to come back pretty much as it is. The rest of this stuff I think can stay. I mean, it's a list item of a single item. That's fine. It's not the greatest, but I think it will probably work, to be honest. Ooh. So by itself, that's great. Now we should test this. Okay, so we've made a bunch of changes to just this file. Now's a good time to test and make sure that we're doing the right thing. So let's do that. So let's press F5 again. It's going to go through the loop. It's going to add it into Teams. That's going to take a process and take a little bit of time. So I'm going to pause the video and come back to you when it's ready to install into Teams. Okay, we're back at the install dialog. So we're going to add our updated application. We're going to come over to Teams. We're going to get rid of our previous draft and we're going to start a new post. Okay. And let's have a look at this. So we've got choose our extension again. Now this time it actually doesn't really matter what we put in as the query. Okay, we can put anything in because we're not actually using it. But what we should get back is your communication manifesto, which is the title. And if we click on it, we should then get back our communication manifesto. Right, doesn't look great, but remember, actually, the audience for this is Copilot and not humans, so it kind of doesn't matter that much. Now, if you were building a real application, you probably wouldn't do it like this. Okay, you probably wouldn't put it in a card like this. You'd probably make it look nicer. This is about what's the smallest amount of code we can write into an extension to make a good Copilot plugin. This will be fine. Copilot can read this just fine. So in terms of changes to that code, we're pretty good. We've got this, it works. This is enough information to give our communication manifesto back to Copilot. There's one more really important change, or set of changes we need to make though, and that's in our manifest. So if we come up to our manifest, the things that we need to change on our manifest are really about how we tell Copilot about our plugin. And this is really important. If you haven't seen my other video on how Copilot chooses plugins, go watch it now or watch it after this, because actually it is really important, that stuff in determining like how Copilot decides which plugins to choose. A lot of that comes down to the information we're going to put in here. So we're going to give Copilot the most information it needs in this manifest so that it will choose our plugin when we ask it to assess our emails against our communication manifesto. So the name I'm going to give this extension is, it's not this now. I'm going to completely change this with your communication manifesto. And in the full description, I'm going to tell it, I'm trying to basically tell Copilot why it would choose the plugin. Okay. So your communication manifesto stores and retrieves your personal communication preferences. And then in the description, again, my short description will be that it retrieves your personal communication preferences. And then I've got a nice long description for Copilot to say, stores and retrieves your communication preferences. This helps you validate and check you are communicating with people in a way that matches the commitments you have made to them. Okay, that's one part of the process. Now, the other thing we need to do is, let's say that Copilot does now decide to choose our plugin. We have that search thing to put in. So with messaging extensions, you have to have some kind of search input. And we already said we were going to use this to be the type of media like, email or Teams or whatever, right? Even though we're not using it right now, doesn't matter. Okay. So we've got this search query. I'm going to change the ID on it to be get manifest because that more aligns with kind of what we're using it for. I'm going to change the description of it because the description now is really important because Copilot needs to figure out what to put in here. Okay. So we're going to give it a nice description and a nice title of retrieve manifest and retrieve my personal manifest. This is the actual command, and then it's got some parameters, the search query parameters. So I'm going to change this from search query to communication type and give it the title of communication type. And then in the description, I'm going to tell Copilot the sorts of things you might expect to put in here. So this kind of it's called few shot queries or something. I can't remember what it's called. Few shot something. Few shot prompting, I think, is where you tell like a large language model some examples of things that might go in there. So in the description, I'm going to say communication type to retrieve the manifest for. Acceptable values are email, Teams, and others. So now Copilot knows it can only put one of those 3 things in there. And also it kind of knows what it's for. Okay. All right. So that's a good bunch of changes we've made. And so we can save that. And at this point, we could test again. We wouldn't really be able to test in Copilot. We can only test it in the messaging extension. And none of this stuff would really make a very big difference. Okay. We've already tested that this part of our code works, and that's great, but the rest of it doesn't matter so much. Okay, so now, in order to test it in Copilot, we actually need to publish our application. So Copilot plugins need to be applications that are published. They can be published, they could be ones that are published to the store, they can also be published to your company store, but either way, you need to get them published. Now, that's a whole process. I've got lots of separate videos on publishing to the company store or the public store. I think the company store is probably easiest to do straight away, like first off, before you worry about the public store, because the public store requires validation from Microsoft, all sorts of hoops to jump through. And if you're just trying this out for the first time, getting it into your company store, I feel like is probably a better way forward. Now, publishing an app to your organizational company store is absolutely the right thing to do if you wish to distribute your plugin once it's done to everyone inside your company so they can all use it. But if you're freaking out right now because you don't want to do that, you're not ready to do that with this example, and I get that, or you're worried you have to find a Teams admin to approve your application and stuff like that, don't worry. You can still sideload your application. So as long as you've still got permissions to upload an app just for you, also known as sideloading, so that it just runs in your Teams client, you can do all this. Copilot plugins can use sideloaded messaging extension apps, no problem. So that's what we're going to do in the rest of the demo. I just wanted to let you know, like, yes, you do want to use the organizational app store and publish there when you're ready to distribute your app, but for now you can use sideloading. So in order to do that, you firstly need to publish. So everything we've done, all of this code sits on my machine right now, like my local machine. It isn't anywhere else, and that means nobody else can access it. And other than that dance that we do when we press F5, Microsoft Teams can't see it either. The next thing we need to do is publish it and put it on the web somewhere. And that really means creating resources in Microsoft Azure and deploying to those resources. Now, I'm going to assume you know a bit about Microsoft Azure, and I'm going to assume you have an Azure account. If I come over to my Teams Toolkit, you can see that I've already signed in up here, and that's how the app upload stuff. I haven't signed into Azure, so I'm going to fix that real quick. Okay, so I'm now signed into Azure, and that means that I can come down here to this lifecycle bit. I can provision, deploy, and publish. Provision means create things in my Azure instance. So I've got a couple of subscriptions, so I'm going to choose the right subscription. It's going to ask me if I want to create a new resource group, which I do. I'm just going to accept the defaults, and it's going to create a new resource group and then add all of the things I need into that resource group. Let's choose UK South. You could choose the region where it goes. It's going to tell you that you might get charged for some of this stuff. So I'm going to say, yep, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and delete it once I'm done. But really, this is really helpful because it means you don't even need to know which Azure resources you need to build. This will provision them all for you, and then you can go and have a look afterwards and see them all nicely built. This provisioning takes a little while. So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to come back and let's look at it in Azure when it's made. Now that provisioning step has finished, this is my Azure portal. This is that resource group that was created. And you can see it's created 3 resources in here, an app service plan, an app service, and an Azure bot. Really nice. It's tied them all together. It's done all the work that's needed to register this as a Teams bot. I didn't have to do anything. This is ready to go to Teams now. The only thing to be aware of, this is provisioned, it's not deployed. So all of this stuff is there ready to go, but the code is not yet sitting on this service. The service is created, but the code is not yet running on it. So let's fix that now. So we've done provisioning, which is what I just talked about. The next stage is deploying. So we need to deploy our code to the assets that we've just provisioned. Again, Teams Toolkit makes this really easy. One-click deploy. And again, this process can take a while, so I'm going to come back when it's done. Okay, so you can see down in my output that all the deployment has completed. Another way you can tell is that this zip Teams app package option has now lit up. It was actually grayed out before, and that's because the manifest, which the thing that's on the screen actually that we've been editing to tell Copilot how our app works, the manifest also includes the link to where the code is running in Azure or any other cloud. So you can't create that app package until you've fully deployed all your code. So I'm going to choose zip app package, and I'm going to choose the manifest JSON, which is the file we've been editing. And I can choose between dev or local. I'm going to do the dev one. Local is local to my machine. Dev is the one we've just pushed. So I'm going to do that, and it will create it. And I get a notification down here that the package has been successfully built at a local address, which I can click on. And when I do that, it pops up in my browser, and I get lots of different options. Now, it's this zip file. This is the thing that Teams needs. I can go and look at this JSON file. In fact, I open it in Notepad over here so you can see it. We can look down this list, and you can see it's got the stuff in that we put in. But if I come down here, it's got a whole bunch of stuff that we didn't put in around the bot ID. And that's the stuff that it's brought over from the deployment and publishing stage that happened automatically. And it's this ID that will tell Teams where to go in the bot registration. It's got all the links to all the URLs of the code that we just pushed. So Teams Toolkit actually makes things really, really simple to get started and get deploying something. So to actually sideload your app, now that you've got the manifest zip file, go to apps on the sidebar, go down at the bottom to manage your apps, click upload an app. Now, if you don't see this, go and talk to your Teams admin about getting permission to sideload applications. From here, you want to click upload a customized app, and then use the file browser to browse to where the app manifest is. So in my case, I'm going to choose that same dev zip file that we had before. It will load up saying the name of the application, so you can check it's the right one. You can then click add. Once you've added it, head over to Copilot Chat, and then down the bottom, look for the plugins button, and you should see your plugin listed here. I know mine's in here twice. That's just because I built it and then I built it again for the video. Okay, so I've turned off the one I had before. This is the new one, and you can see that because I never specified a nice icon or anything like that. So this plugin is turned on. So what does that mean? Well, it means that now we can ask Copilot to combine what it knows about our communication manifesto with what it knows about how I send emails. So I could say something like, look at my emails over the past few days, compare them to my manifesto, and tell me where I'm coming up short. Let's try that. Tell me about any emails I've sent in the last 3 days that don't align with my communication manifesto for email. Now it's sorry, but I don't think it should be sorry. It's sorry because it can't actually find any that don't align. So maybe I should rephrase this question. Do emails I've sent in the last 3 days align with my communication manifesto for email? It'd be better if I could spell communication. Okay. So again, it's brought back the communication manifesto, which is a good way of us knowing that the plugin is working. It still can't find any emails I've sent that are angry and unkind. That's probably a good thing. So this could be a prompt that you run every morning or every few days, just to make sure you keep yourself in line and just to call out any emails you might have sent that fall outside the kind of boundaries you set yourself. Okay, super quick example of what you can do with messaging extensions and turning them into Copilot plugins. Hopefully you'll take away from this that it's pretty easy to get started. I've tried to keep the code as simple as possible, but still produce something that is genuinely impactful and useful. I hope you found that's the case. Let me know any comments, let me know your experiences. Really want to know if you got this working too and what impact it had on your emails that you're sending to your coworkers and colleagues. Hope you find the video useful. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching.